Just write the ticket, Grandpa Judge. People like him don't matter. That is what the young man said, loud and clean, right here in Providence Municipal Court. I felt the air change. I have heard a lot in this room. I have heard anger. I have heard fear. I have heard lies that sound smooth like oil. But this quote was different. It was cold. It was proud. It was aimed like a sharp stick at an old man standing near the defense table. I am Judge Frank Caprio, and I was sitting in my chair, looking down at the case file, when I heard it. The defendant was 27 years old. His name was Bryce Kellen. He wore a bright white designer hoodie that still had a crisp fold in it, like it came from a box this morning. His watch flashed when he moved his wrist. He leaned back like the court belonged to him. And the man he called him was 84 years old. His name was Walt Norrick. He stood with both hands on a cane. His cap was tucked under his arm, and I could see the faded shape of a military patch on it. He looked small, but not weak. He looked tired in a way you only earn. I looked from the young man to the old veteran. I took a slow breath. If you believe justice should be equal for everyone, you'll want to see what happens next. The bailiff called the room to order. The benches were half full that day. People were whispering, then quiet. You could feel them leaning in, like they knew something big was about to happen. Case 2026 TR 41872, my bailiff announced. His voice was firm, like a door closing. State versus Bryce Kellen. I lifted my eyes to the defendant. Good morning, Mr. Kellen, I said. My voice stayed calm. I keep it calm on purpose. Step forward, please. Bryce strolled up like he was walking into a club, not a courtroom. He didn't look at me the way most people do. Most people look at me like I hold a storm. He looked at me like I was a speed bump. I'm here, he said, almost smiling. Let's make this fast. I nodded once, then glanced at my notes. The charge was serious for traffic court. It wasn't a small parking ticket. It wasn't a broken tail light. It was leaving the scene of a crash, plus a charge for trying to interfere with an investigation. That means trying to mess with the truth. I turned my eyes to the older man. And Mr. Norrick, I said, you're here as the complainant, the person who reported what happened. Walt nodded. He didn't step forward fast. His knees looked like they argued with every step, but he came forward anyway. Good morning, sir, I told him. Good morning, Your Honor, he said. His voice was soft, but it didn't shake. I asked him, Are you working right now, Mr. Norrick? Yes, sir, he said, part-time. At 84, I asked. He gave me a small smile that didn't reach his eyes. I do what I can. What kind of work? I asked. I clean tables at a diner, he said, early mornings, and I do small fixes for folks, a loose stair, a fence hinge, simple things. I looked at him closer. His hands were big and rough, not the hands of a man who stopped living years ago. These were working hands. And why are you in court today? I asked, even though I already knew. He swallowed. Because I got hit. In the crosswalk. 2 weeks ago, I was walking home with groceries. My leg, it's still not right. I saw him shift his weight. I saw pain in the way he guarded one side. Bryce made a sound, a short laugh. I turned to him. Mr. Kellen, I said, this is a courtroom. You will not mock a man who is injured. Bryce lifted his palms like it was a joke. I'm not mocking. I'm just saying I didn't hit him like he's a mailbox. He stepped out. People step out all the time. A few people in the gallery made small noises, not loud, but the kind that says, Are you serious? I raised my hand slightly. Silence returned. Mr. Kellen, I said, I will warn you once. Speak with respect. This court is for facts, not attitude. He nodded, but the nod was lazy, like he was pretending to listen. I looked back to Walt. Mr. Norrick, I said, do you have family here today? Walt looked over his shoulder to the back bench. A woman stood halfway up, then sat back down. She looked about 40. Her hair was pulled tight. Her eyes were red like she hadn't slept. My granddaughter, Walt said, Mara. I nodded at her. She nodded back, nervous. I could feel the story underneath the story. I have been doing this long enough to know when a case is not just a case. Then Bryce spoke again. Can we stop with the sad stuff? He said. I've got meetings. My time is expensive. That was the first disrespect moment that landed hard. I leaned forward just a little. Mr. Kellen, I said, in this room, your time costs the same as everyone else's time. Sit up straight and listen. For the first time, his smile dropped, just for a second. Then he shrugged. I turned to the file and began Act Two, because this is where the truth either stands up or falls apart. The first confrontation was quick and sharp. I asked Bryce, did you leave the scene of the crash? He answered fast, no. I drove around the corner because people were yelling. I felt unsafe. Walt's granddaughter made a small sound, like a gasp caught in her throat. I asked, did you call 911? Bryce blinked. No, I didn't have to. Someone else did. I asked, did you check on the man on the ground? Bryce tilted his head. He wasn't on the ground. He was sitting, and he was yelling at me. Walt's face stayed steady, but I saw his jaw tighten. I nodded. All right. Then I introduced evidence number 1. Mr. Kellen, I said, we have photographs taken by Officer Dina Revell from the scene. They show the crosswalk. They show the grocery bag torn open. They show Mr. Norick's knee bleeding through his pants. And they show a piece of your front bumper cover on the street. Bryce waved his hand like he was brushing away a fly. That could be any car, he said. I kept my voice even. It is matched to your vehicle model. It also has a custom vinyl wrap on it, a very specific color, a kind of midnight blue with silver flakes. His eyes flicked down for a second. I continued. Your car is wrapped the same way, correct? He sighed. Yeah, lots of people do wraps. Not that many, I said. The gallery was quiet. They were watching him now, not me. Bryce leaned closer to the microphone. Judge, he said, I can pay for the guy's groceries. I can pay for his doctor visit. Whatever. Let's not pretend this is a big deal. That was the second confrontation starting, the authority challenge. I asked him, do you understand why leaving the scene matters? He smiled again. Because it makes paperwork harder? No, I said, because a human being was hurt. And when a person is hurt, you stop. You help. You take responsibility. You don't treat the street like a place where rules bend for you. He rolled his eyes. Then he did what many arrogant people do when they feel cornered. He tried to name drop. Judge, he said, I know people. I know Councilman Reese. I know Captain Harlow at the station. I'm not some random guy. This is going to go away. I felt the room stiffen. My bailiff's posture changed. Even the clerk's typing slowed. I leaned forward. Mr. Kellen, are you telling me you are trying to use connections to influence this court? He lifted his chin. I'm saying this is a misunderstanding and it can be handled quietly. I let a beat of silence sit on him. Then I introduced evidence number 2. Mr. Kellen, I said, we have call logs and text messages from your phone number to Officer Dina Revell, sent the same night. I will read one line. His eyes widened just a hair. I read it slowly. Let's be smart. I can make this easy for you. 5,000 tonight. The room made a sound, all at once, a low wave of shock. Walt's granddaughter covered her mouth. Walt did not move. He just stared forward, like he was watching a far-off memory. Bryce snapped, That's not a bribe. That's a donation. I repeated, 5,000 tonight. I looked at him. A donation does not come with the words, make this easy for you. Bryce's face went red. He pointed toward the old man. This is ridiculous, he said. He saw a fancy car and thought, jackpot. He's playing you. That was the third confrontation taking shape. The direct insult, the line cross. I watched Walt's shoulders rise slightly, then settle, like he was holding something back. I asked Bryce, do you know who you're talking about? Bryce shrugged. An old guy who should not be crossing streets alone. I turned to Walt. Mr. Norick, I said gently, I want to hear, in your own words, what happened. Walt cleared his throat. I was in the crosswalk, he said. The walk sign was on. I had my groceries. Then I heard a car, loud, like it was angry. He looked down at his hands, then back up at me. It hit my hip. My bag flew. I went down. I tried to get up, but my leg, it buckled, and the driver looked at me, just looked, like I was trash in the road. Bryce scoffed. Walt continued anyway. Then he drove off. I asked, Did you get the plate number? Walt shook his head. No, sir. My eyes aren't what they used to be. His granddaughter whispered, But I did. I looked at her. Ma'am, stand and tell me your name. She stood. Mara Norick. That's my grandpa. I nodded. What did you see? Mara swallowed hard. I was in my car behind him. Grandpa was walking in the crosswalk. The blue sports car came fast. It didn't slow down. I saw the plate when it sped off. I wrote it on my hand. She held up her palm. The ink was gone now, but the memory was not. Bryce laughed again, louder. This is a family performance, he said. So touching. Want some sad music too? My bailiff took one step forward without thinking. I lifted my hand. Stay. Then I introduced evidence number 3. Mr. Kellen, I said, we also have video from a delivery truck dash camera. Dash camera means a camera on the front of a vehicle. It records what happens on the road. Bryce's mouth opened, then closed. I continued. The video shows your car approaching the crosswalk. It shows the pedestrian signal on walk. It shows Mr. Norick already in the crosswalk. It shows your brake lights do not come on until after impact. The room was so quiet I could hear papers shift. Bryce leaned back, eyes darting. Then he did the thing I have seen before, but rarely this bold. He tried to break the room with words. He looked right at Walt and said, If you're so brave, old man, why didn't you die in your war like the rest? Then we wouldn't be here wasting time. That was the viral moment forming. I felt it like a punch to the chest. Walt's granddaughter cried out, Stop! My clerk froze, fingers above the keyboard. 10 seconds passed. I know it was 10 because I counted in my head without trying. 1, 2, 3. Nobody breathed. Then the gallery erupted. People shouted, Oh my God, and that's disgusting. Someone said, Throw him out. My bailiff stepped between Bryce and the rest of the room, and my face changed. I could feel it. My jaw tightened. My eyes burned. I have been called names. I have been tested. But this was not just disrespect. This was cruelty. This was a young man showing the world what he really believed. That quote was his nuclear quote. It was the kind of sentence you can never take back. I leaned forward, slow and steady, because anger is a fire. If I let it loose, it burns the wrong things. If I control it, it lights the truth. Mr. Kellen, I said, my voice low, you will stand up. He blinked. What? You will stand, I repeated. He stood, but he did it like he was still trying to look strong. I looked him straight in the eye. Bryce Kellen, I said, you just said, why didn't you die in your war? Do you understand what you did? He scoffed. I said words. People are too sensitive. I nodded once, like I heard him, but I did not accept it. Bryce Kellen, I said again, you did not just say words, you showed your heart. I turned my head slightly toward Walt. Mr. Norick stands here at 84 years old, still working, still showing up, still walking to buy groceries like any other person. Then I looked back at Bryce. And you stand here at 27, wearing expensive clothes, talking about how your time is expensive, acting like a human being is a speed bump. I asked him hard questions, one by one. Bryce Kellen, why didn't you stop your car? He said, I already told you. People were yelling. Bryce Kellen, why didn't you call for help? He said, someone else did. Bryce Kellen, why did you text an officer about 5,000 tonight? He snapped. I was trying to make it go away. I repeated his own words back to him, slow. Make it go away. Then I repeated the nuclear quote back to him too. And you told this veteran, Why didn't you die in your war? The room went quiet again, but this time it was a quiet that listened. I leaned back and spoke from the place in me that cares about people, not power. Bryce Kellen, do you know what respect is? He stared at me. I answered for him. Respect is what you give to someone because they are human, not because they can help you, not because they can hurt you, not because they wear a suit, just because they are alive. I pointed softly toward Walt. This man has pain in his leg. He still came here. He did not come here to get rich. He came here because he was treated like he did not matter. I glanced at Mara. And his granddaughter came because she loves him. Because family is what holds people up when the world knocks them down. Then I looked back at Bryce. You tried to use influence. You tried to use money. You tried to use shame. And when those did not work, you used cruelty. I said his name again. Bryce Kellen. His shoulders shifted. I asked, do you know what privilege means? Privilege means life gives you an easier path. It is not a crime to have it, but it is wrong to use it like a weapon. I let that sit. Then I turned to Walt. Mr. Norrick, I said, I'm going to ask you something, and you can answer or not. Whatever you say, I will respect. He nodded. I asked, when you heard him say those words, what did it bring up inside you? Walt's eyes went glassy. He looked down, then up. It brought up a day, he said. A day I never talk about. Mara whispered, Grandpa. Walt raised his hand gently. It's all right. He looked at me, and his voice got even softer. I've kept something secret for 47 years, he said. I kept it because I thought it would hurt people. I kept it because I thought nobody would believe me. I kept it because I promised someone. The room leaned in. Even Bryce stopped moving. Walt continued. When I was young, I served. I was on a base overseas. There was a fire in a storage building, a lot of smoke. People ran, people yelled, and I heard someone trapped inside. He swallowed hard. I went in. Mara's eyes filled with tears. She looked like she was hearing this for the first time. Walt said, I found a young man. He was not a soldier. He was a local teen who worked on the base. He was pinned under a fallen shelf. I got him out. I carried him. He paused. His hands trembled. I got him outside, he said. But I didn't make it out clean. I watched him. I waited. Sometimes the hardest thing in court is letting silence do its job. Walt finally said, the next day, the base doctor told me I had smoke damage in my lungs. He said I might have trouble later in life. He gave a tiny laugh that sounded like pain. He was right. I glanced at the cane again, the slow steps, the guarded breathing. Walt looked right at Bryce now. And that young teen I carried out, Walt said. He grew up. He became a man. He moved to America. He became a father. My chest tightened. I felt something coming. Walt's eyes were wet. That man, he said, was your grandfather. Bryce's face went blank, like his mind shut off. Walt continued, voice shaking now. His name was Elias Kellen. He wrote me a letter every year, for decades. He called me the stranger who saved my life. The room was dead silent. Walt reached into his worn jacket pocket with slow fingers and pulled out an envelope. It looked old. The edges were soft, like it had been held many times. I brought the last letter, he said. It came right before he passed. He held it up. I never told my family. I never wanted praise. I kept the letters. My throat tightened. I have seen truth in many forms. A broken voice, a shaking hand, a quiet act. This was all of them. Walt looked at Bryce and his voice became steady again. Your grandfather begged me in that last letter, he said. He said, promise me my grandson will grow up kind. Promise me he will treat people like they matter. Walt's tears fell. I wrote back. I promised. Mara broke down quietly, hands over her face. Bryce's lips moved, but no sound came out. and I felt my own eyes burn. I hate crying in court. I hate it because it makes me feel exposed, but I could not stop it. Because in one moment, that 84-year-old man did not just answer an insult. He revealed a life of service, a life of silence, a life of promises kept. And now he stood here, hurt in a crosswalk, being told he should have died. I took a deep breath and wiped under my eye with my finger, quick, like I was brushing away dust. I looked at Bryce. "Bryce Kellen," I said, "you walked into my courtroom today thinking money is armor." He stared at the envelope like it was a snake. I said, "But you just learned something. You can't buy your way out of who you are." I asked him, "Did you know your grandfather's story?" He shook his head, slow. "No." I asked, "Did you know this man saved his life?" He swallowed. "No." I asked, "Do you still want to say he doesn't matter?" Bryce's face twitched. He looked toward Walt. His voice came out small. I didn't know," he said. I nodded. "You didn't know, but you still chose to be cruel." Now I moved into sentencing, because a lesson without a consequence is just a speech. "Bryce Kellen," I said, "here is what the court will do. First, the financial penalty. You will pay a total of $8,750. He flinched. I continued, clear and punchy. $2,500 is the court fine for leaving the scene. $250 is the fine for attempting to interfere with the investigation. $3,000 goes directly to Mr. Norick for medical costs, including the knee brace, the clinic visits, and the physical therapy. $2,000 goes into a court-managed victim support fund for seniors who are hurt in traffic incidents." Bryce started to speak. I held up my hand. "You will listen. Second, license suspension. Your license is suspended for 14 months. You may not drive any vehicle during that time. If you are caught driving, you will face immediate custody and a longer suspension." He stared at me, stunned. Third, community service, and I made it tied to what he did. "You will complete 220 hours of community service." He opened his mouth. I cut in gently but firmly. "Not any service. This service. Every Saturday for 20 weeks, you will report from 7 a.m. to 12 p.m. to the Elmway Senior Center in Providence. You will help serve breakfast. You will clean tables. You will help seniors carry groceries from the weekly food pantry. You will do it under supervision. That means someone will watch and report if you are late, rude, or absent." Bryce's jaw clenched. I raised my voice just one level. "That's what it is." Fourth, public accountability. Because his words were public in this room and they mattered. "You will write a handwritten apology." I emphasized handwritten, not typed, not a message your assistant writes. Your hand, your words. One letter to Mr. Norick. One letter to Mr. Norick's granddaughter, Mara. And one letter to this court explaining what you learned about respect. Then I added a condition that matched his behavior. You will also record a 60-second PSA, a public service message. That means a short video where you tell young drivers, stop for pedestrians, never leave a crash, and never treat people like they are nothing. I looked at him. You will not post it to gain followers. You will submit it to the court. The court will approve it. Then it will be shown at 2 local high schools during Driver's Safety Week. Bryce looked like he might explode. Then I addressed contempt. Contempt is when someone disrespects the court so badly they cross a line, and Bryce had. "Bryce Kellen," I said, "because you insulted a veteran and disrupted this court, I am holding you in contempt." My bailiff stepped closer. The sound of his shoes was heavy in the silence. I said, "You will spend 48 hours in custody. This is not to ruin your life. It is to stop you from thinking you can do anything and walk away smiling." Bryce's eyes went wide. "You can't." My bailiff gently took his arm. The handcuffs came out. The metal clicked. That sound is never small. It tells the body, this is real now. Bryce's face drained of color. I continued, "You will return for a review hearing on March 18, 2026. At that hearing, I want proof of your first 40 hours of service, proof of payment, and your apology letters." Walt stood still, tears on his cheeks. I looked at him. "Mr. Norrick," I said, "I am sorry for what happened to you. I can't change the crash. But I can tell you, this court sees you." Walt nodded once. "Thank you, Your Honor." Now, for the aftermath, I chose the transformation path, because people share endings that give hope. 6 months later, I saw the follow-up report. Bryce Kellen had shown up at the Elmway Senior Center every Saturday. At first, the supervisor wrote, "Arrogant, silent, avoids eye contact." But then the notes changed. Week 8, helped Mr. Duran carry boxes without being asked. Week 11, stayed late to wipe down chairs. Week 14, bought new non-slip mats for the kitchen after noticing seniors could fall. Then I got a letter, not from his lawyer, from Bryce. It was handwritten. The ink was messy in places like he had pressed too hard. He wrote, "I thought respect was something you earn by winning. Now I see it is something you give because people are people." He also wrote something that made my throat tighten again. He wrote, "Mr. Norrick, I don't deserve your grandfather's story, but I want to live like I do." On the day of the review hearing, Bryce walked in wearing plain clothes, no flashy watch, no grin. He looked at Walt first, not at me. Walt was there too, cane and all. Bryce walked up and held out his hand. Walt looked at it for a long moment, then he took it. Their hands met, old skin and young skin, one steady, one shaking. The room did not clap, courtrooms don't clap, but I saw people wipe their eyes. When the room emptied later, I sat alone for a minute. I looked at the seal on the wall. I listened to the quiet after the storm, and I thought about that envelope, a promise carried for 47 years, a man who saved another man's life and never asked for a trophy. I thought about how easy it is for people to forget dignity. Dignity means a person's basic worth. It's like a light inside them. You don't get to blow it out. Justice is not just about punishment. It is about teaching. It is about making sure the strong do not crush the weak just because they can. And if there is one lesson I want people to carry out of my courtroom, it is this: money can buy comfort, but it can't buy character.